Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our webinar. We're going to be talking about Google Search Appliance and some things you need to be thinking about as you make your plans to replace GSA, which is retiring. So we're very excited today. We have a special guest. We have with us Michael Sismar, who is founder and managing director of MC Kossei. They are a new partner of Attivio's. So Michael is going to talk about the risks of delaying your transition and the opportunities for innovating with search that open up because of the GSA sunset. Our other speaker today is Brian Flynn. He is Director of Solution Architecture here at Attivio. Brian is going to step through 7 product considerations for replacing GSA, and he's also going to show a demo of the Attivio platform. So, Michael, I'm going to hand it over to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Jane, and thanks, Brian, for having us. We're very excited about the new partnership that we've developed with you all. It's kind of funny, the way that the industry is, most of us who are passionate about enterprise search and cognitive solutions tend to be around each other, through the various cycles, economic-wise, and we worked with some of your team, kind of going back 10 years. But I'm not sure if the people on the phone know much about MC Kossei, because we've primarily been focused on Google the last few years, although we have an agnostic practice. But MC Kossei was founded in 2004. As a search consultancy, focusing then on fast, iPhrase, Verity, those type of solutions. And in 2005, Google reached out to us to kind of become their first partner in this budding group called Google Enterprise. And so we were a charter partner. Sometimes I say that we're the first partner of that group, and it's grown to be Google for Work, now Google Cloud. In that process, we became very specialized in enterprise search, and we did about over 200 deployments of the Google Search Appliance. We won Partner of the Year. We have clients and consultants based here in North America, and in South America, we have an office in Santiago, Chile, which is where we do a lot of our production work out of. And we're now broadening our bases to work with other vendors like Attivio and helping them transition these thousands of customers from kind of the legacy Google to the cutting edge things. I think it's good to kind of talk about where we are in that time frame. So if you could advance the slide, please. We have this kind of standard slide that really emphasizes what we're experiencing as a community. Last year, the GSA was announced for deprecation, and Google was a little bit fuzzy towards what that roadmap looked like. But in effect, what happened is at the start of this year, there's no new sales. So that means if you're not an existing customer of Google, you cannot buy the product. If you are a customer of Google's, then you're allowed to upgrade, buy new boxes through this year. And then at the end of this year, in December, software sales, hardware sales will cease. And then starting next year, appliances begin to shut off. So we're kind of facing right now our first wave of people with that realization. I think when Google made the announcement, it was like, oh, this is going to go into 2019, so don't worry about it. And the reality is that come the beginning of next year, appliances are turning off. I mean, that's what happens when you get to the end of your contract. And the roadmap from the GSA, if you wanted to stay with Google, isn't really clear as well. The product that is being positioned to be the replacement was called Springboard. Now it's been renamed Google Cloud Search, and it's very centric to the Google G Suite. So if your content's in Drive, if your content's in Sites, if you have content in your Gmail, it'll search through all that. And it requires that you have a G Suite license. It requires that you have your content in G Suite. So it doesn't really answer the use cases that companies like ours and a lot of it implemented for customers, nor obviously the 10 or 20,000 different customers, what they use the GSA for. There's no crawler, there's no ingestion framework, there's no search service to speak of, although those are things that they have mentioned out that our roadmap, it's just right now not clear how you would go about pushing content in there, and then pushing content into G Suite itself is you don't have control over how fast it gets indexed, how fast ACLs are repurposed in this. I think it plays well into the Attivio message as well, but there's a lot of unknown specifically with that we think that customers should know about it and have addressed. As Jane said, there is significant risk with delaying tough choices. This isn't something that is going to get better with time. We see, like I said, from the December timeframe rolling back to now, so people are trying to make a decision whether they extend their GSA, and they're like, okay, well, we'll start the implementation now, and we'll send out RFPs, and we'll just knock this out. And that's really not how it's done successfully. There's always a way to do it, and there's a way to do it successfully. There's a way to do it minimizing your risk. We're kind of talking about what we're seeing in terms of reducing your risks and delaying the transitions. Things that you need to consider are, and with any significant investment, is are you measuring it? Are there metrics around its current use? And we have an assessment guide that details these a little bit better that I'll go through right now, and you can go to our website, register, and download it. But the considerations really around initially, how are you using it today, the use case. Do you know even where it is? It's kind of funny, but it is logically within the organization, who owns it, and then physically where is it deployed. Someone will eventually care about that. But sometimes our customers don't know those things. They just set it up, it works, and they kind of don't worry about it after the fact. But really, you have to it comes down to the timing, meaning that without knowing much about this specific use case, we plan a 6-month transition. And the sooner you start that, the less risk you have. It's really 3 months on the front end to do your requirements analysis, platform selection, and then 3 months to do your platform enablement, initial use case. And that can obviously be shortened and longer depending on what you're trying to do. But our new kind of catchphrase is, you shouldn't expect the implementation to take less time than the procurement. We sell GSAs, we sell solutions, and you'd be surprised at how long it takes to get specifically a purchase order from an organization. And then at the same time, you'll see a lot of people either have the expectation, or marketing in the industry will say that the implementation time frame. I mean, someone came out like, you can have enterprise search in 6 minutes, and it's ludicrous. That you're trying to set that expectation, out there, and not to say that it has to be a long process, but in dealing with Google, we saw a lot of differences between how they sold G Suite and how they sold the appliance. The appliance was sold very simple, and G Suite was sold as with change management and organizational change. When we as technologists sort of thought that was, hey, you're just turning on email boxes. How hard is that? But they would go through a meticulous process to do a prototype pilot, deploy to a certain organization. Then when it came to selling the GSA, they said, well, we'll just plug it in and it works. And that's, for it to be effective, that's not how you should go about deploying it. You have to, for machine learning algorithms, for analytics to work, you have to tag your pages to understand when you have generated successful outcomes. And that's not something that can be done in 6 minutes. And so we like to show this this image where on the left is chaos, and on the right we move towards order. And our implementation philosophy and implementation principles and our governance drive the implementation of the technology through a design process. So when you start out, potentially right now, there's a lot of noise. What is their timing with the GSA? What are you using it for? What are current features? We haven't really looked at this in 2 years. We haven't planned on this. Why is Google doing this to us? So there's a lot of noise. And you can, iterate yourself and get yourself into an infinite loop trying to settle these things. And what we do is we do proceed through an iterative process. We focus on outcomes. We focus on requirements and analysis and analytics. And in doing that, we take you from the noise and we take you into a simplified deployment, ultimately, of the technology. And with that, I'm happy to pass this over to Brian Flynn.
Great.
Great. Thanks so much, Michael. We're going to run a little audience poll now. So the question, you should see this poll on your GoToWebinar screen. The question is, what's your time frame for GSA transition? So we know that everybody who has Google Search Appliance, we think that you probably have this, you're thinking about this, you have it on your mind. Some people, we've talked to people who don't have a plan yet. So is your answer A, I'm burying my head in the sand? Or is it a short-term, mid-term, or long-term type goal? We like to run these polls because I find that the audience is interested in what other people are saying as well. So it looks like most people have had a chance to answer the poll. Let's go ahead and close out the poll. Okay. Now I think you should see your poll results on the screen. And it looks like most people are burying their head in the sand. Wow, I'm a little bit surprised at that. Michael, is that what you find when you talk to people?
Actually, yes. It is very consistent, and no matter how much I get on the soapbox, there's definitely it's consistent with what we're seeing. And that's part of our strategy. We think that trying to be honest with our customers about what the realities of the situation are is the best thing we can do right now.
Yeah, but are you surprised, Brian, by this response? It's mostly none, 47%. The next one is midterm and long term.
No, it's surprising to me, but that's why we're here to talk about this, right? And just kind of work through this process with folks. And thanks, Michael, for providing us with some good background and context on GSA and the state of the world as it exists today. Certainly, Attivio is seeing a lot of these types of inquiries as well. So we figured this is the easiest way to kind of reach out to the folks that have been interested in learning how Attivio can help transition those customers that are kind of being end-of-lifed off of Google Search Appliance and move into what we consider to be the next evolution of search being a cognitive solution for our customers. So, so just kind of going over the 7 critical requirements of the Attivio platform here, and this is kind of as we view it.
Okay. We're just pulling this slide up for you. Okay. Go ahead, Brian.
Great. Yeah, so again, talking about the 7 critical requirements as Attivio sees it for achieving cognitive search, specifically, a lot of these things are for folks that are used to the world as GSA sees it. We consider many of these features major differentiators, specifically for folks that are looking to go above and beyond what GSA would typically provide and look for something that might be more appeasing and more applicable to their end users that are leveraging the end user application of a GSA implementation, and then certainly future thinking in terms of how we can be leveraging Attivio's roadmap and truly making an enterprise search experience, whether that's site search, whether that's internal knowledge management search, other types of end user applications based off the Attivio platform. How do we make them all cognitive? And that's really where these 7 critical requirements come through. You can go to the next slide here and we'll go through each one of these.
Yep.
So the first slide here around big data scale and flexibility. So with the Attivio platform, we support really 3 major methods of deployments. Certainly we do support a managed service offering, as you'll see down below there, where Attivio can be managed and hosted within an Attivio-based cloud environment, which runs on AWS and leverages Rackspace capabilities. We can also be deployed within a private cloud-based environment for those customers that have on-premise needs that maybe go above and beyond deploying on traditional blade hardware, which we certainly do support, but we certainly see a lot of our customers that have moved to their own private cloud internally, whether that's their own kind of virtual machines, whether they're managing through Microsoft Azure, AWS, or Google Cloud Platform. All of those different types of environments are supported within kind of an on-premise or private cloud environment. And then certainly as a cognitive search solution where we're talking about, working with not just millions of records, but, we have many customers that have requirements for enterprise search within the billions. Attivio is certified to be fully deployed and managed within Hortonworks and Cloudera environments, and we have certifications for both of those. Secondly, certainly a key component to any enterprise application that's building a search use case, and Attivio is no different, but our approach to connecting to data sources is twofold. One, ensuring that we have as many out-of-the-box connectors that cover the breadth of different enterprise applications we tend to see from customer to customer, whether that ends up being things like SharePoint, Confluence, Jira, Jive, ServiceNow, Box, Google Drive. Again, I could list off all the different connectors that we do have out of the box, but more importantly is the platform support and enablement to ensure that if there are custom connections that need to be deployed that have not been provided previously by Attivio, we provide all of the SDKs and APIs that you may need for either Attivio to assist, MCNA to assist in building out those custom applications, or if you guys have the appetite to build those out yourselves, you can certainly do that. But really, the extensibility and flexibility of the platform to ensure that you can cover as many of the bases as humanly possible out of the box, and then cover the remaining 20% based on extending the platform. And kind of on the same lines of an extensible platform, once you have access to those data sets that we showed previously, and we've talked about connecting to those various enterprise applications or maybe file systems or databases, what do you want to do with it? And the same premise applies here, as you'll see throughout the entirety of our platform. The ability to customize the various portions of data transformation as data flows into the system and ensure that you can take advantage of, again, out-of-the-box capabilities of Attivio, or quickly customize and configure third-party services as needed or as required. And those third-party services can be things like optical character recognition for understanding the deep text that exists within maybe scanned contracts. It's a use case we see quite often. Maybe it's speech to text for understanding the automated transcripts that are generated through videos or audio. But again, the whole idea here is provide the platform that allows enablement for customization within the connection side as well as the data transformation side to take advantage of internal out-of-the-box solutions that Attivio comes prepared with, or customize them as needed.
Brian, if I may interrupt, I just want to point out something that I think is unique in the Attivio landscape, and there's 2 things with respect. on this and the extensible workflow and transformation of data. One is so most tools have some type of concept of this, but within Attivio, there's branching logic that allows you to split the workflow, so it can go down one path or the other, and that's for me, just working with other systems which have kind of a single start to end flow is amazing. And secondly, you can actually connect with the SDK. You can connect to the instance of Attivio and step through your customizations. So you don't have to get into the situation where you're writing log line, log line, log line. You can literally see what's coming through in your code. And for developers, I think that makes them significantly more productive.
Yeah, exactly. It's certainly a key tenet of the Attivio platform to ensure that, again, we're extensible, but we're also developer friendly, and ensure that we provide them all the tools that they need to, build out these custom applications using the Attivio platform that provide, transformative business value for sure. The ability to unify different disparate data sets, and this is just a kind of a high-level example of what we mean here, but really what we're talking about is, above and beyond what we show in the slide here, Attivio provides a patented capability of performing what we call query time join, and this allows our, again, developers, whoever they may be, to build out meaningful insights that can ask, real-life questions and start to join structured and unstructured data sets together to answer that question. So the example here, what are my customers in my region saying about the new products that they bought within the last 90 days? So that question can be broken down into two different areas. One, what are my customers saying? That's typically going to be information that comes from unstructured content like emails, like tickets that come into customer support desks. Maybe it's transcribed audio calls that are coming through the customer support desk as well. But a lot of that information in terms of what are they saying comes from that unstructured data set, where Attivio can start to understand entities that are being extracted, the sentiment of those entities, and we do that all automatically within the platform itself. And then the second piece is, what are the products that they're buying within the last 90 days? That's typically going to come from your structured information internally. Structured information housed maybe in something like a major mainframe like an SAP, or maybe a SQL database or a SQL server or MySQL or Oracle database. Whole point is that information is structured. With Attivio, you can ingest both of those data sets and then at query time join them together to provide an end user application that is very insightful and meaningful and actually applies to what the end user of that application is looking for. Security is certainly an essential component of the Attivio platform as well. It's one of the main reasons that we, formulated as a company, because security, for those folks that have experience with security in the past, maybe with GSA or maybe with other enterprise search platforms, this is a very hard problem to solve, particularly when you start to talk about very large scale of millions or billions of documents. With Attivio, what we're able to do is provide secure document level security from both the data silos that we're ingesting from, as well as layer in an additional business logic of cognitive security, which ensures that above and beyond document level security that's being defined by those original data silos, we can ensure that business users can redact or remove results based on different information that may be displayed within that result. Maybe don't display any social security numbers, or don't display any salary information that's being mentioned. So all this information is being powered by that query time join capability that we discussed previously, and it is a very key differentiator for Attivio, particularly in enterprise applications.
Yeah, Brian, I completely agree. But this was one of the first things that we noted, and in working with the set of products that we work with, we've kind of gotten, the GSA had a very tight security, and we didn't necessarily see it in a lot of the other products that we work with. And when we started working with Attivio, we were kind of just very pleasantly surprised in the ability to, people don't think about this, but if you have a security context that is going to have some impact on 1 million a 5 million document result set, if you don't have the query time join or you don't have another mechanism to deal with that, making that change means you have to re-index that content, and you're at the mercy of the content system, or you have to cache the data and reprocess it in some way. In this, you're literally making one change, and you're joining at the query time, so it's near instantaneous.
Exactly. Yep.
Which is always good for search.
Great. A couple more slides here before we jump into a demonstration of the platform from an end user perspective. Certainly ensuring that the UI capabilities that allow end users to interact with the search application is a key component of the Attivio platform. And it's really, we have three main methods by which customers are typically deploying the Attivio platform, either through ourselves, through our partners such as MCNA, or developing them themselves depending on the use case and the business requirements. On the far left-hand side, we do have what we call our UI framework, which allows developers to, again, quickly bootstrap an enterprise search application based on existing templates that are provided by Attivio. And these templates are, built in modern web browser-based frameworks. They're fully responsive, and they're really, again, meant to provide a quick starting point for those, generic applications that are, the ones that we see most often in terms of things like internal intranet site search or knowledge management, external, site search for, white-labeled websites or premier flagship websites. Whatever the case may be, the UI framework is there to really help solve a lot of those use cases. On the far right-hand side, we have a full host of APIs and SDKs. The APIs are fully RESTful. They support JSON, JSONP, and XML. The SDKs themselves are Java-based. But again, this is more for those customers that already have either their own custom application they want to build into, or if they have a new custom application idea or platform that we need to provide and integrate existing enterprise search into. So for those use cases, that's where the API comes into play. And in the middle there is the ability to leverage a BI tool on top of the Attivio platform. So really using, existing BI tools for the purposes of, creating ad hoc analysis within a BI dashboard or tools such as Spotfire, ClickView, Tableau. Those are just a couple of the ones that we tend to see most often that can interface directly with Attivio as a search engine, even though the BI tool actually recognizes it as a database. And that's, again, all part of the ability for Attivio to provide, unstructured content and manifest it in a structured manner to perform some of those joins that BI tools require. And then the final slide here is around, adaptive machine learning relevancy. So, this is something that we focused on pretty heavily over the course of the last 12 months. This is something that is available in our current product offering today. And the whole idea behind machine learning relevancy is let's take the best of what machine learning has to offer today and ensure that those algorithms can drive the relevancy profile that needs to continuously, in a world without machine learning, have a lot of manual care and feeding. In a world with machine learning, what Attivio has done is we're using machine learning algorithms to ensure that as new content gets published into the system, as new end users continue to interact with the system and search for different results, click on different results, facet on different queries, all of those interactions from an ingestion point of view, as well as a query and response side, those signals make their way into the machine learning relevancy profile of Attivio so that our platform is responsible for continuously monitoring and updating relevancy to ensure that when someone is looking for results, they're always going to get the most relevant result based on the content that's being published by and large and how different end users that are similar to that particular end user are searching for content. And with that, we're going to quickly jump into a demonstration of the platform here. So just bear with me for one moment while I share my screen. So this is just a quick demonstration of the end user application that's been built on top of the Attivio platform. If there are folks that are interested in learning more about how Attivio can be administrated from a back-end perspective, we do have trials that are available on the Attivio.com website as well. The whole use case behind this demonstration, the use case here is an internal knowledge management demonstration. But the key thing to walk away with from this demonstration here is any of the features that you're seeing within this demonstration for this specific intranet knowledge management use case could certainly be applied to other use cases as well, whether that happens to be intranet site search or extranet site search for a public-facing website. We like to show this one, or I like to show this one specifically because it does do a really good job of showing a lot of the table stakes features and functionality of the Attivio platform, as well as show a bunch of other key components and capabilities that customers are weaving into the various applications that they deploy with Attivio. So the whole idea behind this application is, again, a knowledge management application, and the premise for this demonstration is in a world without Attivio, I might be a new employee that's working at this enterprise, this fictitious enterprise that's publishing news contents, email contents, research content, grant proposals, dissertations, all around the concept of machine learning. And if I'm a new employee, it doesn't really matter what department I belong to. I want to become as an effective an employee as humanly possible, as quickly as possible. In a world without Attivio, I might be responsible for understanding, 7, 8 different enterprise applications and understanding what documents exist within those enterprise applications, whether they're Confluence, SharePoint, Jira, Google Drive, whatever, or maybe even site crawls that we have to perform internally. As a new employee, that can be daunting. And in a world with Attivio, we've indexed all of that information into a universal index so that we can provide this end user application on top of it. So a couple things I wanted to show here, again, just in terms of table stakes information. If I do a search for MIT, you'll see a bunch of autocomplete terms that are coming back. This information can be automatically derived from the content that exists within the Attivio platform, or it can be manually defined by the business end users as the case is needed. If I do a search for Microsoft Research, you'll see a couple of results that come back. And again, the results that are coming back from news content, research articles that are being published by this enterprise, grant proposals, things of that nature. A couple, again, table stakes capabilities as well. Spell correction is certainly a key component of the Attivio platform. And again, these dictionaries about what is the correct spelling for the terminology can be automatically derived by the Attivio platform as well. If I change my search from Microsoft Research to use the kind of synonym of Microsoft Research, or MSFT, as their ticker symbol in this scenario, you can see that the same number of results in 40 results are coming back for that particular query as well. So a lot of really, table stakes as we see it in terms of capabilities for search applications, but certainly important for any useful enterprise application that's built on a cognitive search solution like Attivio. I want to call your attention to the left-hand side here. We have a decent amount of metadata that's being automatically generated by Attivio, and this starts to speak to some of those key components that we've discussed previously around what makes a cognitive search solution. And certainly the ability to derive structure and meaning from unstructured content is a key component of a cognitive solution as Attivio sees it. So you'll see here there's a bunch of key phrases that are being mentioned within these documents that essentially are being provided to the end users as facetable elements. So I can see for my search for 40 documents which mention Microsoft Research, I can quickly drill down on show me all the Microsoft Research documents that also mention binary classification, and that maybe we're talking about IEEE, and were authored by this particular employee of this enterprise. And with a couple of clicks here, I've gone from a couple thousand results down to the specific result of interest. And just another view into that metadata here as well. I just like to show this so that, again, we can start to provide more forward-thinking ideas around how, with the automated metadata that Attivio generates, you can gain meaningful insight based off that data set. So again, we're working with a fictitious data set here, but I think for your applications, for the folks that are on the phone, hopefully this starts to resonate in terms of the ability to generate automated metadata from unstructured information can really start to influence how you analyze that content. Whether you're using a search application like we built here, or maybe you have your own BI tool you want to integrate with as well, leveraging the Attivio platform for, again, giving that structure to unstructured content can really start to provide some additional insight into your content for your entire enterprise data set. And all this information, again, is just facetable elements. So I can click on extracted key phrases, show me all the content that mentions electrical engineering that was published by MIT News as an example, and then also mentions Hollywood. And with, again, a couple of those results, very similar to the screen we were showing previously in terms of, doing a traditional search and drilling down on facetable elements, but just a different spin on, visualizing those metadata facets to provide, kind of a more intuitive experience. A couple other things I wanted to show here before we end our presentation. The idea behind natural language processing and joining structured and unstructured data sets together is certainly something that we focus pretty heavily on here at Attivio. If I do a search for something like who understands machine learning, I can have this query come back and suggest, not just the traditional number of results and documents that would typically be provided within an existing enterprise search application, but we can literally have the machine suggest to us, it sounds like you're looking for an expert as opposed to a list of documents. And this is a specific use case that we see in knowledge management where we have a lot of customers that are really trying to enable their employees to find the expert that can answer their question as opposed to an answer or a document within this particular application that might be provided. So when I do this search for who understands machine learning or who understands the ADMM method, Attivio is able to essentially join structured and unstructured information together at query time to help to solve and provide a list of answers to that question. Who is the expert that I need to talk to today so I can really understand the ADMM method for that press release I'm providing tomorrow? What Attivio is actually doing here is we're joining structured information such as employee records that exist within this fictitious enterprise, and these typically, at least in my experience, can come from places like a Microsoft Active Directory, an LDAP service, maybe a structured database, but wherever that information exists that can describe who are these people, who do they work for, what is their title, what is their employee number if that's relevant. All that structured information can be indexed, and then that can be joined back to unstructured information that's being published by and large within the entire enterprise. So we can start to understand, within the context of this use case, who is Pradeep, what is the content that they're authoring on a regular basis? Based on the content that they have authored, what are the areas of expertise that they continuously mention and talk about? And then even further, let's show a knowledge graph of different end users or different experts in this scenario that have similar areas of expertise.
And I think it's very important to point out that the system is making the relationship between machine learning and these individuals that you're showing. They're not necessarily tagged by end users or tagged in LDAP, that based on the content that they're authoring, the subject of that, and a variety of other signals, the system is providing the expert finder. And that's something that I found very important and distinguishing into Attivio. I think a lot of the nuances of the system are presented so well in a very simplified format, but you're not indexing a CSV that has machine learning and Deprecation in it or something. It's based on all these other signals, which is absolutely fascinating.
Great. So that's the end of the demonstration here. I think I'll just pass it over to Jane to kind of wrap up the webinar that we have for today.
Okay. Thanks so much, Brian. And we're going to go ahead and go to the Q&A. We're going to take just a few minutes for a Q&A session now. We have quite a few questions in the queue, so we will just get through as many as we have time for. So, Michael, it looks like this first question is a really good question for you, and I'll just read it. It says, have there been any updates on the disposition of the existing GSA licenses on the appliances? There was talk about Google allowing the licensing to continue to function in a non-supported capacity versus Alliance's bricking. So, Michael, do you have an answer for this person?
Google is going to be the best official answer to that, but as it stands today, at the end of your license term, the appliance will effectively brick. Google's recommendation is that you look to migrate to G Suite Cloud Search, and of course, what we say is you should take a look at your use case and see if that's appropriate, and then potentially migrate to another technology.
Okay. Good. And I think the key is that support is ending. Is that correct?
Well, when we sell a GSA, it's a whole, all in one package. So you buy kind of like a Attivio. You get the device for a specific time frame, and that includes software and support. And then at the end of that time frame, the appliance effectively bricks. Google will connect to your appliance, remove their software. You can continue to have the hardware. You're titled to it, but as far as the using it in an unsupported manner, that's not something that is an option today.
Okay. All right, good. Okay, so looks like the next question is for Brian. Somebody is asking, with respect to the Attivio query time join capabilities, does this require more robust hardware compared to other vendors to leverage this capability?
Yeah, so I guess first things first, the query time join capability is a unique capability of the Attivio platform. Again, it is something that is patented by Attivio. So when you're comparing the ability to leverage query time join against other vendors, I think there is no comparison specific to that function. But certainly, complex queries can influence the level of hardware that would be required from a scaling perspective. And for the person that's asking if they're interested in having a deeper conversation on this, I'd be happy to talk more about it, because when you talk about the scalability of the platform, that in and of itself can become a fairly intense conversation, because Attivio can scale to support very large big data applications, not just from an index size perspective, where we've talked about leveraging the Attivio platform for millions and billions of documents, but also from a query and response perspective, ensuring that we can support several tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of users that may be searching concurrently for very large public-facing websites. Certainly, as the queries themselves change and as they become more complex, that would require more hardware to support it. But from a topology perspective, when you kind of look at apples to apples comparison of simple types of queries to other vendors, we do feel that we have a very very small and very kind of compact topology requirement there. But for complex queries like query time join, it's hard to compare it to anyone else because no one else can really do it.
Okay. So next question is for you, Michael. I have somebody saying, obviously I'm not a techie, but the question is Google Search for Business going away? Will the free Google Suite, Gmail, etc. be affected? Are you saying that I won't be able to use Google Search from my desktop?
Okay, I think that the question is, Google.com search is unaffected by this. It's not an enterprise product. So if you can perform a search against Google.com, that is completely separate from the Google Search Appliance. The Google Search Appliance is a server that you put behind your firewall or wherever you deploy equipment, and it was meant to index your own content, typically integrated with your internet search or something like that, and it's been marked for end of life.
Okay, great. Well, we have a lot of questions, but it's time for us to wrap up. There's still some questions in the queue, so we will definitely be reaching out to the people who ask questions and make sure we can answer all of the questions. So just to wrap up, I've got one final slide here. I just wanted to call your attention. I think Brian probably mentioned this in his presentation, but there is a free download of the Attivio platform. You can run a free trial. So you can either go to our website, there's a big green button in the top right corner, or you can go to attivio.com/free trial and try out the platform for yourself. It's I believe it's a 30-day trial. And the other thing I want to call your attention to is that we have another webinar next Thursday at 2 p.m. and the topic of that webinar is text analytics. So you can sign up for that webinar at attivio.com/events. So with that, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Thank you, Brian, and thank you so much, Michael, for joining us. We're very excited to have you today.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Have a good day.